If we allow that to happen, it is deeply unethical.
I had such faith in our democratic system, our self-government. I actually thought and believed that the story would be compelling enough to cause a real sea change in the way the Congress reacted to that issue. I thought they would be startled too, and they weren't.
The struggles, the victories that aren't really victories, the defeats that aren't really defeats, they can serve to magnify the significance of some trivial step forward, exaggerate the seeming importance of some massive setback.
April 3rd, 1989. My son pulled loose from my hand and chased his friend across the street. He was 6 years old. The machine was breathing for him. We were possibly going to lose him. He finally took a breath. We stayed in the hospital for a month. It was almost as if you could look at that calendar and just go, and everything just flew off. It's trivial, insignificant. He was so brave. He was such a brave guy. Just turned my whole world upside down and then shook it until everything fell out. My way of being in the world, it just changed everything for me. How should I spend my time on this earth?
I really dug in, trying to learn about it much more deeply. I went to Antarctica, went to the South Pole, the North Pole, the Amazon, went to places where scientists could help me understand parts of the issue that I didn't really understand in depth. The possibility of losing what was most precious to me. I gained an ability that maybe I didn't have before, but when I felt it, I felt that we could really lose it. That what we take for granted might not be here for our children.
These are actual measurements of atmospheric temperature since our Civil War. In any given year, it might look like it's going down, but the overall trend is extremely clear. And in recent years, it's uninterrupted and it is intensifying. In fact, if you look at the 10 hottest years ever measured in this atmospheric record, they've all occurred in the last 14 years. And the hottest of all was 2005. We have already seen some of the heat waves that are similar to what scientists are saying are going to be a lot more common. A couple of years ago in Europe, they had that massive heat wave that killed 35,000 people. India didn't get as much attention, but the same year the temperature there went to 122 degrees Fahrenheit. This past summer in the American West, there were a lot of cities that broke all-time records for high temperatures and number of consecutive days with 100-degree temperature or more. 200 cities and towns in the West set all-time records. And in the East, there were a lot of cities that did the same thing, including, incidentally, New Orleans. So the temperature increases are taking place all over the world, including in the oceans. This is the natural range of variability for temperature in the oceans. You know, people say, oh, it just naturally goes up and down, so don't worry about it. This is the range that would be expected over the last 60 years. But the scientists who specialize in global warming have computer models that long ago predicted